Hello, everybody. Joe the Lawyer here, and we have another episode of Analog Man Cave coming your way right now. All right, so today we are getting into the at-the-table considerations, the in-game considerations that a DM, or GM, should say, is going to have to deal with, okay? So this is different than the stuff you do before the game happens. The in-game considerations are, what happens when you're sitting down and you're playing. That's basically it as a GM, okay? So the most important thing you need to have in-game is a thorough knowledge of the rules. I know I said this in other places in the book, but some things are just important enough to reiterate, especially in different contexts, and I'm going to expand upon what I said earlier right now. Like I said, you don't need to know every single spell description or monster stat block, but you do need to know the rules of combat so that they flow smoothly. It's okay to rely on players for spell info, but you ought to know the major spells, as well as the spells your NPCs or monsters are going to use. You also need to know the stats of all the every enemy the PCs are going to face, so you can give them a challenging combat. Now, that being said, you're the GM. You are the god of the game, so if you don't like a rule, change it. Now, I would not advise changing any rule mid-game. What I usually do is notice that like a particular rule is wonky or it's stupid or mess up the vibe of the game I'm trying to run. So during the game, sometimes I'll just tell them, hey, this is probably going to be a house rule here coming up. So, keep in mind, this is the last time you get to use that perhaps in the same exact way. Okay, and they're on notice, right? Sometimes at the end of the game, I'll ask for feedback or I'll explain what I'm thinking or why I'm thinking it and then say, listen, well, here's the deal. Here's why I don't like it. What do you guys think? What's a fair compromise? And then, between the game sessions, I come up with the rule change, whatever that may be. I make sure I'll send this rule change out to the players via whatever medium we're using for the campaign. Sometimes it's a text thing, emails, or Discord lately. And then I update the house rules with that change, and I send another revised copy of the house rules too, much to the consternation of my players. I put the date of the house rules both in the file name and on the very first line of the document itself. That way it's easy to figure out, what the hell version you have going on here. There are many jokes in my games about, which one, the 48th version of your house rules or the 49th, which one is that in? That sort of thing. So, bite me. All that being said, you're going to mess up with the rules. All right? It happens to everybody. If you catch it in the moment, admit it and retcon the mistake on the spot. If even someone else catches it, do the same thing. Admit it, retcon it on the spot. If you or someone else catches the later, like between games or at the end, the end of the game or an hour later, whatever, just admit it and retcon it, right? The key here is admit it and fix it. Retcon whatever you need to, even and especially character death. Now, there was one game I was running where a player wanted to play a blind monk, like those old cheesy kung fu movies of the 70s, where everybody had to avenge somebody and went to Shaolin Temple to learn how. Anyway, this guy, the PC himself, was 80 years old and he was blind, 70 or 80, right? Now, during the game, he came across a ghost and it aged him decades, I think like 40 years. And I said, listen, there's no fucking way of avoiding it. You're dead. You're deader than dead. I mean, you're shriveled up nothing. You're dead, right? So he all busted his balls for dying because of old age, basically, in a game where it was on him. He could have made up a character who was 17 years old and would, been middle-aged. Now he's dead, right? So he rolled up a new PC, and we busted his balls all week about that. It's dying because of a ghost. Anyway, I think some of the smarter ones amongst you, smarter than me, are going to realize what happened here, the retcon. Because in the middle of all the ball busting, I think it was my brother who said something like, hey, wait, does he have to actually see the ghost to be aged by the ghost? And how could he see it if he's blind? So there was like this long pause for me. I'm like, fuck, you're right. So just like that, the old blind monk was alive again. Hey, my bad. Nobody caught it at the time. Not one person, not even the player himself. So he was alive. For a while he was alive. You're going to need to be prepared for when all your players do the unexpected stuff. But know this, you're never going to be prepared for everything they throw at you. The better the group, the crazier the stuff you'll have to deal with that you weren't prepared for. Sometimes you can use the rules to resolve it, sometimes you can't. Depending on the uniqueness of the situation, especially if the other players in your game are all GMs too, like in mine, I think it's totally fine to go around the table and say, hey, listen, I never had to deal with this before. How do you guys rule? How have you ruled on? What do you rule? What would you say? And then I, take all their advice and then I rule how I see best. It's not a group vote or a consensus. Sometimes I'll throw it out for a group vote. What the hell? What do you got to lose? Especially if it's not mission critical or something, And like I said before, sometimes you just have to pause and look up a rule. I've told that story a couple times in a couple of videos about. I used to play it at a Moe's burrito place, and I just call it breaks sometimes. Every these guys would try some weird ass shit. Go get a margarita. They're all taking a leak or whatever. Or since it's a burrito place, they're taking a shit. I've clogged that toilet so many times. They were so fucking embarrassing. Anyway, you just pause, get some, just figure it out, right? But sometimes you just have to wing it. You have to just make shit up on the spot and then move on. And if it turns out that you were wrong, again, admit it and retcon it. If you come up with a better way it could have been handled, like between sessions while you're thinking about it, because we all think about our game, what could we have done better? Hope we all do, at least as GMs. I mean, it's part of your job. So, if you're thinking about the game and maybe you weren't too satisfied with what you did or how you ruled, and you come up with a better thing, good. Write it down. Tell them, tell your players, hey, listen, next time I'll probably do it like this, right? By all means, though, don't take too long in making a decision. I didn't take a margarita break fucking 48 times an hour. It was usually around the time where if I could get away with it, it's a couple hours in, time for break anyway, that sort of thing, right? Don't take too long making a decision because it's going to mess up the flow of the restaurants. You know how the flow of the game. You know how restaurants have a 5-second rule for drop food? You should also have like an internal clock for how long you're going to sit there and try to figure out what to do. I'd recommend no more than 10, 15 seconds max. My old school group, we have a thing where we all do that. If we think a GM is taking too long, because we're all kind of forever GMs, we start yelling out, make it up, because we all know we're going to get our balls busted next time for the same damn reason, so it's just kind of fun, right? We all do it. I mean, we're all victims. We all want to make the best decision we can, so we sit there and think about it. But honestly, the best decision you can make is just decide and deal with it. All right? Some people, if they're put in a bind where they don't know what to do, they're just going to roll the dice. That's fine. It's a tried and tested way of GMing. It works especially well, I've seen, for binary considerations. So if the dragon just flew near you, is it going to make a left or a right? Right means he might fly over where the group is hiding. Left means he might fly away and miss you entirely. So you roll the dice and see how it turns out. But not everything could and should be decided by dice rolls. I know this is contradictory to a lot of ways that the official rules publications say, roll the dice and let the dice decide. I don't agree. It's a little bit controversial. Sometimes you need to decide what makes the most sense in that particular situation. This is especially true for intelligent decision makers, intelligent entities. You have to play them as intelligent beings, okay? They make decisions based on all the facts at their disposal, using all their senses, guided by their motivations and personality, just like we all do in real life. I find that for these types of entities, I rarely roll dice to see what they do, ever. I put myself in their shoes and I try to method act it out, like a Pacino or something. If I were them, what would I do right now? And then I do that thing. And if the players bitch and moan about how the enemy always seems to be doing the smartest thing possible, and it always seems like they're going after us no matter what happens, no matter what we decide, it's in the implications that you're out to get them and, try to kill them. Just remind the player that their PC is doing the same against the NPC or monster. That's because you're all intelligent beings. You're trying to maximize your decisions here. If they keep complaining, maybe it's not the game for them. Okay? I also, talking about random rolls, I think GMs really rely on random tables too much, quite often, especially at the beginning of their career. They look at it, well, there's a table there, and it says I can make a dungeon using these tables or these books of tables. I might as well make a dungeon like that. But it's, for dungeon design, random encounters, world design, it seems like they're using tables for everything. This is a game, role-playing games is where you exercise not only your imagination, but your knowledge of the world, history, economics, cultural anthropology, everything you've ever read or known or watched on TV or seen a documentary of, you're using that knowledge to make stuff up. You have to have the knowledge in your head to do so, though. There's a difference, I think, now between people who think that knowledge is having access to Wikipedia, knowledge is having access to Google, versus knowledge being something you keep in your head for your own use later. Now, that may be what's driving the use of tables and AI and all that, because that's what it seems like, honestly. If you're using random tables to do all that stuff, all the generation, it's like a poor man's AI. Some people say they use AI for inspiration, quote unquote. Yet all they're doing is let it do all the heavy lifting, and then they turn off all the parts of their brain except the editing part, which they use to fit the AI-generated thing into the game. I think it's lazy and it's a waste of your talents. You'll never develop as a creative person if you let AI do the work you can do. Now, I know that I suck at drawing. I can't draw a straight line with a ruler. I can't draw a stick man that looks like a stick man. So if I were to use the AI to generate some art, I can't do that on my own. And there's no It's like I'm pretty much like a guitarist with no hands. That's what it comes to me for me in drawing. All right, it's just never going to work. So, I don't. I would consider using AI for little things, artistic things like that, but some of it, not all of it, right? But using AI to do the stuff I can do, hell no. Hell no. That's just being lazy in a way. I mean, why are we doing this? We're doing this to be creative, imaginative people, to make something, right? And you're letting AI do it. What the hell good is it, man? It's like go to a holodeck in Next Generation and computer, make me this. It sucks. It sucks. And you'll never develop, like I said. So I feel the same way about using tables to do the heavy lifting, just like AI. Using tables and AI just takes away all aspects of the creation that marks it as your work. There's no you in it anymore. The typing in a prompt doesn't make it you. It's just Chat GPT or Grok, or whatever the hell you used. The most I'll ever do is use those random table books as something to maybe skim through. I never roll on them. I never use them to determine a damn thing. So I'll skim through it like dungeon dressing or something like that, right? And then I'll go to bed and I'll let whatever I just read percolate and mix around in my noggin and see what comes out the next day when I write. For example, these videos, just as a summary thing, these videos are 80% me reading the text and about 20% riffing off of what I wrote, okay? The text of the GM guide itself. This GM guide is going to be unmistakably mine. It will have my voice and my attitude, swears and all. My typos and my stupid writing too. All right, I'm using Gary's approach when he wrote his Money GM guide as inspiration because it oozed Gary. You knew it was Gary's book. I go back to that sometimes now just as a not only nostalgia, but I was still learning something because of the way he wrote it. It wasn't like perfectly organized. It was written one GM to another. Here's some advice. That's the way I'm doing the book. I'm bringing back that style, that school, that way of doing it. I wanted to ooze me. That's kind of gross, but you know what I'm saying. Same with the other one, oozed Gary. If I wanted to just create a generic GM guide, I just feed every GM guide ever written into ChatGPT and tell it to spit out a pasteurized, homogenized vitamin D GM guide. It would be utter shit, right? It would be terrible. So, anyway, guys, that's the first video on the in-game considerations. All right, next video, we're going to talk about bringing new and inexperienced players into the game, multiple PCs, weird party composition, free choice in the Quantum Ogre, TPKs and skill challenges and social interactions. Okay, and end the word of the day, because I really appreciate you guys doing this, is Lovecraftian. So if you're just commenting for the algorithm, try to throw a sentence in there using the word Lovecraftian. If you can, make it relate back to this video, even for bonus points. And do share this around, click like and subscribe. And like I said in my other video, guys, I am now on Spotify, I am on Rumble, I am on Locals, and I am on Apple Podcasts, as well as YouTube. So wherever you like to watch this, check it all out on any platform, all right? If you have like a Spotify and, you can watch it on Spotify or listen on Spotify and not have to deal with commercials on YouTube. Most people don't subscribe to both and pay a subscription to avoid the commercials. So wherever you want to listen, wherever you want to watch, feel free. Links are below in the description for all these places to listen, okay? So thank you very much, everybody, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.